And TD Jake said something that never leave me. He said, what I'm getting from what you're saying, you know, there is a reward for winning a battle, and that was a battle, becoming first a female head of state. But he said, what I also recognize is the reward for winning a battle is another battle. Because she went on to talk about her 12 years in office, how difficult it was. Everything was just a battle. And so I always say that whenever I give a talk, I say the reward for winning one battle, just another one. And the wrestlers out there will know that. You win a championship, what happens? Everybody's gunning for you. And then they're trying to knock you off. So you just won the right to have another battle. And that's what it is. When you're not battling anymore, unfortunately, you're not alive anymore. You're not with us anymore. Because I think with any success comes, just overcoming adversity. There is no, I would say there is no success without adversity. And I'll tell kind of a unique thing because everybody has unique situations in their own life. But when I do give talks, the topic of the Olympic boycott comes up, especially now during the Olympic year. It's been postponed for more than a year now, so kind of brought back painful memories of the boycott that I went through, as well as the other 500 or 600 or so American athletes in 1980 that went through that boycott. But at least the athletes are getting a chance to do those programs. But um, the thing that this ultimate adversity that I went through, I'll mention that this one. I think everything that I talk about will be will kind of fall right into that as kind of a way in which maybe some of the listeners can frame adversity in their own life and how they can kind of overcome it.
And
The whole
Lee, real
key.
quick, could you try to move the mic a little closer? I think there's a little bit of lower volume that some of the participants were noting. Let's try that.
Okay, is this better now?
Much
Hopefully.
better. Thank you very
I
much.
hope so. I hope so. Okay. Um, uh, the thing about the Olympic boycott that occurred was obviously it was not in my control, and it was something that I always felt that I would be Olympic champion, and now it wasn't going to happen, not from my own uh, doing. I kind of wish it would have been I got beat or something, at least I could have kind of understand that a little bit better. Uh, but that kind of carried with me, and I never could accept it. And that's the first point I want to make is, any type of adversity, anything that goes wrong in your life or anything that goes bad, you have to kind of accept it. I didn't accept it for a long time. Uh, I can remember being at a function once long after the boycott. I mean, like years ago, maybe 15 years ago or so. I was at a wrestling function and someone commented. There was pretty much our Olympians there and world champions. And someone made the comment, "Hey, let's take a photo, just us Olympic champions," And I was standing there, and before, I kind of knew that they were going to take a picture, so I started to move over toward where they were gathering, and finally the person said, "Yeah, just us Olympic champions." And I thought, wow, I'm not an Olympic champion. I'm never going to be an Olympic champion. And at that moment, I had to accept that. I just said, okay, that's never going to happen for me. Now, what do I do now? And I was living, from 1984. I actually tried out for the team and didn't make it in '84 as well. But from '84 to 2005, that's about 22 years. It took that long before I kind of got back into wrestling. But in that whole period of time, I was just in this state of denial, just not being able to accept what had happened. So I stop right here to say, to the audience, in your own life, think about the thing that happened that you're in denial about, that you can't accept that happened to you. That's the first point of anything in life is the truth. Just accepting what has happened, and then the next thing you have to kind of assess, like, where am I right now, before you can move on, before you can challenge yourself to move beyond a place. You have to assess kind of like, where am I, and you have to be honest about, how did I get here. Some of the hardships I went in through in life, the boycott was one, but some other things that are brought out in the documentary about my life, some of them were self-inflicted. I inflicted some of the adversity in my own life, so I was in denial about that as well. So once you come into you know just in acknowledgement and agreement as to what's happened to you, then you can see where you're at. Like, where is the floor here? Because there's times that you do fall, and you don't get back up because you don't accept where you're at. You're in denial about where you're at. But once you accept all that, you assess where you're at, you see where you're at, then and only then can you start to make uh, any type of action toward moving ahead. And how do you make that action? I think it goes back to trying to understand what your life purpose is. That word sounds maybe a little bigger than it really is. If you ask someone what is their life purpose, they kind of look at you with a glazed look like, what do you mean? And it is a difficult thing to think about because your life is a long time. So if you think, well, is this life purpose supposed to be the only thing I do in my whole life? No, your life purpose may change. It's like a goal. It's like it's like a dream. It's like something that makes you happy. Uh, your life purpose probably has a lot to do with things that you do most often, things that bring you happiness, bring you joy. I bring that up to say that in 2005, when I got back into wrestling, it was because I had went through a really devastating time in my life. And at that point, if I wasn't at the bottom, I could see it from where I was at. So I knew that things were really bad in my life. And so I couldn't really understand how I got there, but that doesn't really matter. But once you know where you're at and you know that you do, first you have to want to get better. And so I started to think about what makes me happy. And it's not that other things have not made me happy in my life, but I realized that I really enjoy being involved in wrestling. So 2005 is when I got back in wrestling. I'm 2006 actually. So I'm 22 years after 1984. And it was the best decision I ever made because through wrestling brought a lot of other things in my life that brought me happiness. It wasn't just the wrestling. It allowed me to reconnect with people. A lot of the people were my age. We had went along through life, had careers in business and so forth, a lot of different things. It moved me in some other directions that I might not have ever gotten into because number one, I was happy. When you're not happy, you're not drawing positive things to yourself. If
Mm.
you're always in denial and you feel like, your life didn't go the way it should, I mean, yeah, I had a lot of wrestling success, don't get me wrong, but I really believed and felt I should have been an Olympic champion, and it really bothered me. It still bothers me a little bit, as you can tell. I'm kind of talking about it, but you move past it because sometimes you don't always get what you want in life, but your life has to go on and you have to be productive. And one of the key things I do every morning when I get up, that I feel blessed to wake up and get up, I say, what am I going to do today to be productive? And it can be different things every day, but the key is to be productive. And the reason why I say that is because when I was going through that hard time, there were days I did nothing. And people who are listening will relate to this. When you go through a real horrible time in your life, a horrible adversity, a lot of tragedy, sometimes you don't even get out of bed. You know, I mean, you see the sun come up through your window, you see it's light now, and then you're just laying there, and then you just see it get dark again, and then you see it get light again. When that happened, I said, okay, this is not good because you're just not doing anything. And so I made up my mind right there. I'm going to start being productive every single day. So the topic, overcoming adversity, that starts with at least finding something to be passionate about again. And when you have that passion, it creates some expectations around that passion. And expectations will drive you to some sort of action. That action was me getting back involved in wrestling back in 2006. It was a wonderful experience. I got to coach people like David Taylor when he made a junior world team in 2006. It brought back a connection that I had in my life that I just thought was not there anymore. And then in 2008, I was able to be one of the Olympic coaches. And 38 some odd years or so, I got to fulfill my Olympic dream a little bit by being an Olympic coach by going to Beijing as one of the coaches. So you never give up on your dream, you never give up on your passion, or you might have to rekindle your passion. You may have to find a different passion, but that will create some action in your life. So the long and short of it, how do you overcome adversity? It's by action. You have to do something, but it can't be a random activity. Hopefully, that activity is in alignment with some sort of purpose that you have. And when you can, but to find that alignment, it's not that easy, really, especially when everything has been taken away from you in your life. Like in my case, it was my wrestling dream. It was whatever was going to happen in my life after that wrestling dream. So if you're constantly looking for that as your purpose, you're never going to find it because that's gone now. So sometimes we're looking outside of ourselves to find our purpose when really we need to look inside of ourselves, look in our heart, find what is it that makes me happy. And and again, in my life, I was fortunate to have something like wrestling, the brotherhood of wrestling and sisterhood of wrestling. Now, I'm from the old school. I started wrestling when ladies weren't wrestling, but it's just such a wonderful thing that women are wrestling now. But that whole togetherness that is created from being in this fraternity, sorority fraternity, so to speak, of wrestling. And I went back to that, and it was the best thing I ever did. And for a long time, I ran away from it because I just felt like I had done that, and I needed to go on and do something else. Sometimes we move around in life thinking we have to do something else because okay, I've done this, and now if I go back to that, it would be like a step back. It would be something negative or bad if I have to go back to wrestling just to make it now. That's not a good thing. And the reason why I say this is because when I moved out of wrestling, I ran a business, I was doing some different things that also didn't end up the way I wanted it to. So, I mean, I was kind of at a point where I was at the bottom, and I had to figure out what to do next in my life. But it all got kind of restored to me, when I just started to feel um, good about myself again, I guess you could say, and started to rekindle. Uh, uh, Maybe what my purpose is. And if I had to think about what my life purpose might be for the listeners out there, now that I threw the term out there, um, wrestling allowed me to find some things that I'm passionate about. I'd say teaching is a life purpose I have now. Um, I teach in a lot of areas, not just wrestling. I have a strong interest in nutrition and wellness, health and wellness, um, and just getting rid of mental baggage because I had some myself. So I think I'm qualified to talk a little bit about it. I don't have a degree in it, but it's amazing the people that have gone through some stuff. I mean, I don't go around telling people a lot of it, but I do have the documentary that reveals a lot of it. But when I talk to people, it's amazing the challenges that people are going through every day. It shocks me. It's like I tell them, man, you should have a documentary. Your life has way more adversity in it than mine ever did, and I thought I had a lot of adversity. So you realize that people go through a lot of stuff. So you can share your life with someone that might be something that could help them. So from that standpoint, I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. Not really enjoyment per se, but I guess a satisfaction, I guess, is a better word. I get a lot of satisfaction out of that. I guess of being able to teach and enlighten, maybe I could add to that, and to maybe motivate. And as a coach, I've coached too, and I know a lot of coaches find a lot of satisfaction out of being able to motivate someone to uh, do something a little bit greater than they thought they could do.
Uh,
So
Now,
just
if I could jump in, Lee, if you don't mind, one of the things that you're talking about that I think is really relevant, especially to wrestling more so than maybe other sports, is very few people get it in their careers with their goal accomplished. I mean, like if you think about just like let's say high school athletes, most athletes that are successful in high school, move on to college. And then if you're successful in college, most of the ones at the top try to move on to that next level, that senior level. And so the vast majority, I think, of wrestlers, end at a spot that they didn't want to be at, where they miss their ultimate goal. Um, do you think that's something that allows us to go on in life and be even stronger? Do you think that adversity is something that we use to improve ourselves, and how it impacts us long term?
absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that. I think there's no growth or success or achievement without adversity. I think you absolutely have to have adversity. Sure, it's painful. Sure, it's difficult to go through. But I've talked to lots of former wrestlers that maybe didn't have that dream that you talked about, maybe that college dream, but they went on to be doctors. They used that to fuel something else in their life. And yes, absolutely, adversity. is painful, but without it, there is no growth. I would say there is no success without adversity.
Yeah. Now, how do you think that, obviously you faced adversity at a level that many people haven't. Of course, there's always individuals out there that have different types, and I don't, there's other people that have faced more personal types of diversity or other things as far as disabilities or other hardships that they've dealt with.
Mm.
How do you think that the adversity that you faced has made you a stronger leader?
Well, um, I was I come from the school of um, wanting to follow someone that's actually been through the fire themselves.
Mm,
So I think that's why going back to the wrestling that is why Dan Gable had so much success as a coach is because he not only was successful as an athlete, but while he was coaching his early days, he trained with his athletes, and I had the opportunity to be part of that. Because we're like 8 years apart in age, but my first world team in 1978, Dan was the coach, and he was still working out a lot, and he was my workout partner primarily. Dan enjoyed the training part of it, and so I respected him a lot because I knew he went through everything, and and he was right there with us. So he was like the general that was leading the troops, but he was right there with us all doing it. He wasn't sitting somewhere directing it, or talking to us when we got back. He was right there with us doing everything that we did. And it's hard to do that. It's really hard to do that as a coach or as anyone. So, even when you're listening to someone that is trying to give you advice, uh, you want to know what they've been through, sort of, or how do they live their life. Like if you go to a dentist, you know, first thing I'm looking at is the dentist's teeth. I'm trying to, as I'm talking to the dentist, I want to say, does this person practice what they preach? Or if I have a, my internist, my doctor, I want a doctor that's in shape, that kind of takes care of his body if he's trying to help me. So yes, absolutely. To answer your question, absolutely yes. It's it's vitally important to have gone through some things before you can be the person to give advice. I think not that you can't, but this is real stuff when you can give someone real life examples of things you've gone through yourself. And so firsthand, you didn't just read it out of a book. Not that that's bad, but firsthand experience is always the best.
yeah, I believe in that as well. I always found that there are a lot of great coaches and a lot of great coaching styles. The coaches that seem to be doing as much as possible with the athletes, and obviously with age, we're all unable to do some of the things that we would want to. I know personally, one of the reasons I started doing marathons is, I was talking a lot about mindset, full time, with mindset, helping build our team, train our coaches that work with athletes throughout the country. And I wanted to make sure I was trying to live the things that I was teaching others. And like,
Exactly.
you want to talk about ways to strengthen your mindset, or that things that require a strong mindset is, go out and run a marathon. Because I don't care how good a shape you're in, a mile 16 to 20 is not going to feel very great. And then
Oh,
so, I think when we practice those things, it helps give us a little bit of credibility, and it reminds us what it's like. Before I'd gone back and started, running some races, at a certain point, we look at athletes, we're like, well, just do it. And you forget that in that moment, when you're actually asked to perform, when you put all this work into something, and all of a sudden your success or not having success is right there. The mental piece that you go through, it can be daunting. And I think if we can remind ourselves as leaders what it's like for those that are actually doing it, it makes us more authentic and it makes us better able to connect.
it does. And to add to that,
Yeah.
as we've all failed. So when they can see that you failed and you were able to get back up, just even like Gable, I respect him so much to have gone through all of his great success. And I learned more from the match with him, not just the match, but after the match, how he conducted himself after the match. It just created uh, a mindset for me that carries with me to this day.
Yeah.
His intense respect of the sport of wrestling, his respect of another human being. I mean, he showed great character in that whole event. Didn't leave the gym, stayed there, talked to people, talked to reporters, the whole bit. and then we're friends to this day. And he helped me win world championships. So it's just the whole thing. I've watched him win and I watched him lose, and it made me realize he's just a human being. And that's the
Mm.
problem. We put people on this pedestal that they're something different than what we are, and it's not. We all believe the same. And
And
when you
in the
can
match
show
that
that,
in the match you're referencing is when you wrestled him when I think you were 18 years old at that point.
yes, yes.
Tell me a little bit about that match, because I mean, you're an 18-year-old. I mean, that's he'd already won a gold medal. He's already created this legend in the sport. Had so much different hype built around him for obvious reasons due to his success. Talk to me a little bit about where you were at before you wrestled Dan Gable as an 18-year-old after he's already won gold.
It's funny. I've got to rewind back 4 years, not quite 4 years, but I met him after my sophomore year in high school. That was the summer of 1972. He was at a camp prior to going over to Munich to win his gold medal. So he was I stood up when he needed a drill partner, so we were drill partners. So anyway, I go home, watch him win his gold medal, and my whole mindset changed. But the two things he said at that camp, he said anybody can be beaten and anybody can win. So I remember that. And so I went on right after that camp. I came off of a 500 season. And then after that camp, I went into my junior and senior years undefeated, two-time state champ. So now, 1975, which is less than 4 years from when I met him, I just started wrestling basically too, about 2 years prior to that in 1972. Now he makes a comeback. So he enters a college tournament kind of to get ready for the Olympic year. And, it was in the news. His plan was to go there and then maybe the Midland and all that. And so now he's in my weight class. So what he told me back then was how I could gather up the courage to wrestle him. Anybody can be beaten. And it was Dan Gable saying it, so I believed it. So and he said that anybody can win. So I guess, well, I'm anybody, right? So and the thing he said long after the match, when he about 10 years ago, he told me that it never occurred to him that I would actually try to win. So I went into the match not really necessarily thinking I was going to win, but I went into the match with a lot of excitement, I guess, because I wanted to wrestle this legend. I wanted the adversity, kind of like what this whole topic is about.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was running headlong into the adversity. I wanted to see how good I really was. I just wanted to see it. I wanted to experience it myself. Um, there are a lot of people, and you've seen this as a coach, sometimes wouldn't take that opportunity. In fact, my coach tried to get me not to wrestle him, actually. I don't know what he thought was going to happen. I wasn't like, it wasn't a sport like MMA, I guess. But my coach tried to get me to not wrestle. In fact, he did. I guess because I was this, I was this young guy on the team. He assumed I was going to be a national champ. It was my sophomore year. I had taken second in the nationals year before, Chuck Yeager. So now I'm right in my sophomore year, right in November. And I guess he thought I'd get crushed so bad that would just ruin me for the rest of my career. But I didn't care. I wanted the challenge. So I guess I can say that uh, to grow, and we said this earlier in this talk, you have to have adversity. You have to seek it. You have to seek it out. You have to go for the best competition that you can. If I'm a doctor, then I want to be around the best doctors that I can be. I want to go to the best college I could go to. I want to have colleagues that are the best. I mean, that's just the way I think winners think, and those are the kind of people that I want to be around. So I got groomed by the one of the best teachers from that regard, and his coaching career speaks for itself because he was able to take what was in his head and translate it into a team of his athletes, not just 1 year, not just 2 years, not just 3 years. For the 16 or so odd years, they actually won the national title. And I think they won it with, I think, pretty average wrestlers sometimes. They weren't getting the blue chippers like Penn State's getting now. No offense to Kale or anything like that, but I'm just saying that when Iowa was winning all those championships, they weren't getting guys who were that talent. They weren't getting the David Taylors of the world. No, they were getting average guys getting in to just wrestle way beyond their abilities to be national champ.
Yeah, well, and that speaks to Gable's ability to build somebody up mentally and physically, and get them to buy into the culture and the way that they wrestled, which obviously produced a lot of success. And I really love some of the things you talked about there, Lee, before that match. Like, it's so often athletes they forget to be excited and happy to wrestle. It's like one of the big things we strive with athletes we work with. Oftentimes they allow nerves to make the sport no longer fun, which this sport, it should be enjoyable. We're a little bit of a crazy people that we enjoy this sport because it is rough and tumble, and you're going to take some bangs and your ears are going to get a little bit messed up. But walking onto the mat with just that excitement for, I get to wrestle today. And I'm hoping that one of the lessons that we learned from COVID is we don't know when the sport gets taken away from us, and talk to anybody that's left the sport due to an injury or has missed a Olympic tournament due to a boycott. Sometimes things get taken out of our hand and we forget that we need to be present and excited about every opportunity we get to compete, because we don't always get that. And I don't know about you, Lee, but I still have wrestling dreams where I'm in the middle of a tournament and I wake up and it's like, oh, can I go back to sleep?
Chuck Yeagle, he's in my dreams at least once every month or so. he'll probably get a smile out of that.
Well, I hope so. But Lee, we've really appreciated you coming on and sharing your wisdom. A ton of great stuff. Adversity is ever present with all of us. And, thank you for sharing about your experiences. And before everybody goes, we put it in the chat, but please go check out Lee's book. It's great. I picked it up a couple weeks ago, and I've been mining this, and I've been using it with some of my mindset clients. And I've been talking about the book with some of the coaches that I know. A lot of great lessons, a lot of great things for people that want to be champions on the mat and off the mat.
Thank you so much. It was awesome.
Of course. All right, Lee, have a great week.
You're welcome.